Hello, yes, and welcome to another edition of Agrestal Vestige, where we always vested in all things Agrestal. My name is Tom, as you know by now, and I'm here again, as you probably know by now, with another blended Scotch whiskey review. This time, fortunately or unfortunately, I will be reviewing Johnnie Walker Black Label. Now, I know that I have said in past videos, in passing, that I would not be reviewing Johnnie Walker or Macallan whiskies on this channel. However, I have had quite a few people continually writing me, wanting me to review at least this one. Not so much the red label or the green label or the blue label, which I wouldn't purchase that one anyway. I've had it. Anyway, a lot of people like this whiskey. It's very common. I can't think of a place on earth you can go and not find this whiskey. And a lot of bars, when they're wanting to pull out their special whiskey for people to try, and they've got the red label on the bottom shelf, this is always sitting up there for whatever reason, and they pull it off and they theatrically pour it like you're receiving something grand and spectacular. Hey, to some people, maybe you are. I'm a little more discerning. But Johnnie Walker Black Label, I won't go into the history of Johnnie Walker. It's fairly well known now. I mean, he was a blender. Never had a distillery, only blended other people's whiskeys. And the Black Label now, according to recent info, has about 60 to 65 different whiskeys in it, between obviously grain whiskey and malt whiskey. And this purports itself to be one of the better blended Scotch whiskies. So let's give it a go. As you can tell, I bought probably the smallest bottle I could get, apart from getting a miniature. I didn't want to buy a full bottle of this. But anyway, I'm going to give you my honest review on this. On the nose, it's a bit sanitized, actually. There's not a lot going on the nose. I mean, it touts itself to be quite a peaty or smoky whiskey, and I've never gotten that in the past 20 years. 15 to 20 anyway. You get mild hints of malt. You get mild hints of wafts of smoke. And this is a Diageo product, and they're a big multinational corporation, so there's no telling what whiskeys they would use in here to get the smoke. My reckoning is probably Kalila, because Kalila is also owned by Diageo. So are some others, but this definitely is not a Lagavulin-y type note. It's probably Kalila. But with 60 to 65 different whiskeys in there, there's no way of telling. There's a mild earthiness to it. Let's just see what we've got on the palate, shall we? It's somewhat of a grain-forward whiskey. There's a lot more grain whiskey in here than there are malt whiskey. I would venture to say it was probably 80-20. 80% grain whiskey and 20% malt whiskey. Malt whiskey coming from pot stills grain whiskey coming from column stills. And for those of you who aren't aware of grain whiskey, it's basically just like it's a bourbon, really. It's whiskey that's not malted barley, corn primarily, although sometimes you can get wheat and other grains, but primarily corn. So basically, on the palate, you do get a bit of that Kalila-ish type smoky peat, a wee little. There's some sherry casking influences in there somewhere, but this is predominantly an ex-bourbon filled cask. The primary maturation on this, I would imagine. You get some, like I said, earthy tones, some grassy notes, some Madeira type notes. You get, obviously, because I'm assuming ex-bourbon cask, you do get that honey, you do get that vanilla that's always common in that. But it's very, I wouldn't even say basic, I would say rudimentary. It's a very rudimentary Scotch whiskey. 40%. I'm still going to see if I can knock off any flavors with the addition of maybe 2 milliliters of water and see how we go from there. I'll give it a little time. But you know, years ago, back in the 80s and early 90s, if you were to have bought a Johnnie Walker Scotch whiskey, it would have tasted completely and totally different than it does now. Because it was made better. Not only was it made better, it was matured in higher quality cask. It was a higher malt content than it is now. And just overall, if you ever get the chance at an auction or a relative somewhere that's been keeping a bottle, and you get a bottle from the 70s or 80s or even early 90s, open it, compare it to now, even if it's Johnnie Walker Red Label. I think you malt fans out there would actually like the old Johnnie Walker Red Label. But it's too industrialized and commercialized and mass produced now for my liking. It's heavily chill filtered to where you have none of those long chain proteins. You don't have any mouthfeel at all in there. And look at that orangey glow. I mean, heavily colored with E150A. Well, they do that just to make it consistent, because they produce so much of it. They have to maintain the consistency, and they always make this darker because Black Label, they promote the smokiness, so supposedly on this, and then so it makes it look more rich and just appealing to people. But it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors. It is an age-stated whiskey, 12 years old. The Red Label doesn't have an age statement. A lot of theirs don't have age statements, but this one is an age statement, so it means that the youngest whiskey in here has to be at least 12 years of age, matured. And there you go. So what, after the addition of water, let's see what we got on the nose. Okay, after you add the water, you do start getting a little bit more of that smokiness, that Kalila type smoke coming forward. The sweet notes are getting a little richer, like well, it's kind of a bitter chocolate, a dark chocolate. The malt notes are still there. But the honey, vanilla, toffee, caramel, the typical things you would expect to see in a ex-bourbon cask matured whiskey, that's been primarily done in column stills. Nothing grand or spectacular. I mean, these bottles, this is not a cheap whiskey. They're quite proud of this. A 700 ml bottle will be 50 pounds, dollars, euros, whatever. It's just not worth it to me when you can get things like White Horse or Teachers or Isla Mist or even what we did last week, the black and white. I mean, it just surpasses it completely for half or less than half the cost. And you get so much more enjoyment out of it. I mean, this is the same price as a Cutty Sark Prohibition Edition, and Cutty Sark Prohibition Edition just smokes this. No pun intended, but I mean, it just smokes this because it's so much more rich and complex. This is very simple, very rudimentary, very standardized, very sanitized and pasteurized. Half of the water on the palate. The mouthfeel is very thin, very weak. You get some mid-palate, you get some odd cleaning fluid type notes coming out just out of nowhere that you don't get on the nose. As far as the finish, I would say the finish is medium. Not that that's a good thing or not, but it doesn't just drop off. It does linger a bit. It's got a medium finish, but I wouldn't say it was a balanced whiskey, because what you get on the nose, the initial arrival, the development of it, and the finish, the tasting notes or the flavor notes are all over the place. There's nothing consistent that develops and slowly drops off and something else, manifests itself. You get nothing like this. This is just, putting a shotgun in your mouth and all the little pebbles have flavors in it, and you just shooting it into your mouth, and whatever hits whatever part of the tongue at any given time is what you get. Again, I mean, it's like the 2%, 1% milk version of a Scotch. I mean, if people like it, they like it. But I mean, I think most people who like this are people who do not really like Scotch whiskey. They don't like malt whiskey. They don't like Scotch whiskey. They just like to blend it with Coca-Cola or whatever they blend it with, or soda water or whatever. That's just my personal opinion. It's not something that I would recreationally purchase for myself. If I come across old bottlings of it at an auction or something somewhere, I would definitely purchase it, because I remember what those tasted like, and it doesn't taste like this. I even had this about 5 years ago somewhere, and it was even better 5 years ago than it is now. So I don't know what's happening with Diageo. Everything they've got seems to be running rather erratically at the moment. Anyway, I don't know what else I can say about that. I give you my true and honest review and opinion on this. If I had to give it marks out of 100, I would put it squarely, distinctly at a 72. That's where I would put this. If you wanted to use this as some sort of mixer or a blending whiskey, then that's probably what it's good for. Personally, I don't blend my whiskey. I don't like mixed drinks. I like mine neat with a few drops of water, according to the strength, and that's about it. But everybody's different. that's my review this week. Like and subscribe and all that. And until next time, this is Tom, saying bye-bye.